consider guaranteeing it to secure the peace of mind you deserve. Don't leave your financial security to chance. Take advantage of the highest guarantees I've seen in my career. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600. Or visit us online at trajanwealth.com.
Annuity guarantees are based on the claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Michelle Rowe.
Looking at some slow traffic northbound I-15 approaching Hill Air Force Base Aero Museum. This is going from Sunset up to the museum. Also looking at some slowdowns on 1800 North and 2000 West in Clinton. Fill up your bucket list with Box Elder County. History, recreation, wildlife, excellent dining, and shopping await you. Learn more at visitboxeldercounty.com. Sponsored by the Utah Office of Tourism. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
It'll be cooler today with a high of 86. A chance of monsoon thunderstorms again this afternoon and tomorrow. We dry out Thursday through Saturday with highs back into the mid-90s. And right now we're at 84 degrees with partly cloudy skies. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
You know, we begin every hour of this show every single day with an invitation for you to think again about what you think you know on a wide array of topics. And today I'm going to go beyond just the headlines, and I want to get underneath what I thought I knew before the close of the show yesterday that required me to think again about what I thought I knew. So let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
So one of the reasons we do this whole show is so that we can all stay curious, that we all can explore things beyond the news that we think we know, beyond the headlines and the clickbait things that get served up to us in our social media feeds, and really challenge our thinking about what we think we know. And it doesn't matter whether it's on immigration or healthcare, or guns or family policy or AI or anything else. We all need to be challenged. We all need to really dig into it. And sometimes we don't think about things just because they become very familiar to us. And those are the very things that we should think again about. I've told organizations for years and years that the dangerous day for organizations is when they think they know it all, or they think they've arrived, or they've hit number one. They grab the headlines. They win an election, whatever it may be. It's so easy to get comfortable, to settle in, and to just start going through the motions. And that's where excellence gets undermined. That's where mediocrity is really grows and expands. And so we have to step back. And yesterday I had one of those moments when I looked at something I thought I knew incredibly well. And I had a wow moment because I didn't. So it happened to be Abraham Lincoln's first inaugural address. Now, I have read that countless times. I've talked about it in all kinds of circumstances. I've written about it. I've recorded things about it. And yesterday, I had to stop and consider something I had never supposed when it came to his first inaugural address. And if you were listening yesterday, at the close of the show, I talked about this just a little bit. And it was so interesting. I had several responses from people who caught it. And who were listening yesterday saying, wow, I had never thought of it that way. And these were people who had, stood in front of the Lincoln Memorial and read through some of those important documents and speeches from Lincoln, those who've been at Gettysburg and all of these different people. And some people who really know Lincoln far better than I do, who stopped and said, I had never thought of it that way. And so it was a think again moment. And so I'm going to go back to that because I want everyone to rethink about it. It's actually the last paragraph. Now, the last paragraph of Lincoln's inaugural address, remember the Union is starting to split. Southern states are starting to secede. Things are really ramping up, marching its way towards civil war. But when you get to the last paragraph, there are many components to it that we often quote. There's some of the things that I quote all the time, things that I think about all the time. And so we talk about the components where I'll read you the whole last paragraph. I am loath to close. We are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. Though passions may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection. The mystic cords of memory stretching from every battlefield and patriot grave to every living heart and hearthstone all over this broad land will yet swell the chorus of the Union when again touched, as surely they will be, by the better angels of our nature. That is a powerful paragraph as I think has ever been uttered from an elected official or a leader in any country anywhere at any time. Those are powerful statements. We are not enemies but friends. We could spend hours talking about that. We must not be enemies. We could talk about that for a lot too. Though the passion may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection, recognizing that there are so many things that unite us as a nation. And then, of course, the beautiful, eloquent words, the mystic cords of memory stretching from every battlefield and patriot grave to every living heart and hearthstone all over this broad land will yet swell the chorus of the Union when again touched, as surely they will be, by the better angels of our nature. We've talked a lot about the better angels of our nature and what does bring us together. So I have quoted that. I have talked about all the different components of that last paragraph, except for the first 5 words. I am loath to close. So I don't think it was just that Lincoln didn't want to wrap up his speech. As David Blankenhorn, our friend from Braver Angels, noted, could it have been that Lincoln just didn't want to close the national conversation? Was he just afraid that the close of his inaugural address would be the end of the conversation about unity, about solving problems, about coming up with solutions, about charting a path forward together? And so he didn't want to close. He didn't want to stop the conversation. And I had never thought about it that way before. That was a wow moment. That was a think again moment for me. Because I think of all the places and spaces in our society where we are all too quick to close the conversation. We're all too quick to close our minds. We're all too quick to close out any possibility that we might be wrong. We're all too fast at closing or shutting down dissenting points of view or opposing perspective. And Lincoln didn't want that to happen. Lincoln wanted everyone to think again about what they thought they knew about the State of the Union and the future of the country. So he was loath to close. He didn't want it to end. He wanted to stay in the conversation. Lincoln wanted to stay in community. He wanted to stay in the questions that would allow the better angels of our nature to touch those heartstrings, to recall to the mind and the memory and the heart of the American people the principles that had brought forth the new nation, conceived in liberty. And I think there are so many areas in our world today, in our communities, in our families, where we're just too quick to close. We just shut things down. I know I'm guilty of it all the time. If it's uncomfortable, if it's not pleasant, if it's maybe challenging what I thought I knew, or maybe it's pointing out the fact that I'm blatantly wrong, we just shut it down. We close it. And often we close off opportunities as a result. We close off innovation. We close off progress. We close off the appreciation of one another, the dignity of each other. And so I think Lincoln got it right. And that's exactly why we do this show every day. So we can think again about what we think we know about a whole host of things. So we can say, you know what? Let's not close this conversation down. Let's stay in conversation. Let's stay in community. Let's stay in curiosity and questioning in ways that bring out the best of all of us. Let's stay in new perspectives. Let's stay in a possibility that someone else might have a great answer, or even in understanding why they think the way they do could be instructive and helpful in the way we approach our problems and challenges and opportunities in our communities and in our country. So we're going to continue to think again on this show. This was a great reminder to me that even when you stare at something over and over and over again, there'll be a moment where you say, wow, I didn't know that was there. And of all the things I have read through in Lincoln's first inaugural address, I never would have guessed that the first 5 words of that compelling, inspiring final paragraph were actually some of the most important. I am loath to close. Why? Because I want to stay in conversation and curiosity and question so we can think again about what we think we know. We'll be right back.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. Smith Entertainment breaks ground for a new Utah Hockey Club training facility at the Shops at Southtown.
Wait, what? Is this going to cost me my business?
Maybe. Hockey fever in Utah, the upside, and the other side.
But I don't want to move.
This week on KSL News Radio.
That precious cool air inside your house shouldn't be seeping out through old drafty windows, but if it does, get stylish new windows and frames at factory direct pricing from Advanced Window Products. This is Jeff Kaplan. Advanced Window Products has been building windows here in Salt Lake City for 38 years. But even if you don't need windows, they can give your interior a fresh new look with blinds, shades, and shutters from Graber. They offer custom crafted window treatments featuring the trendiest designs, premium materials, and quality without compromise. Advanced Windows offers start-to-finish service with shorter lead times so you get your custom blinds, shades, and shutters sooner. Call them for a free in-home consultation with their designers. It's a no-pressure experience, and if you need new windows, $2,500 off on 10 windows or more, or if you need window treatments, it's Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindowsusa.com.
You know, Tim, I worry about some of our friends who are losing weight using drugs. I worry about it because what happens when they get to their goal weight? Do they have to take those drugs for the rest of their life?
Well, when they go off of them, in most cases, they not only gain that weight back, but they gain it back plus some.
This is part of the reason why I chose Soda Weight Loss, and your daughter did too, because we wanted to do something that would change our lives forever. This is Tyler. He let go of 50 pounds.
I would recommend soda because it's sustainable. This is lifetime change. I would recommend soda because it works.
It works, Tim.
It really is the best of both worlds, too, because you lose the weight fast and then you sustain that weight loss. The two things everybody wants to do. My daughter lost 42 pounds. Find out how this program can help you. Just go to sodaweightloss.com, click on Request a Nutritionist Callback, and within minutes you're going to be talking to somebody that can literally help you change your life. Sodaweightloss.com. It's spelled SOTA, and it stands for State of the
Art.
For over 22 years, speaking on business on KSL News Radio has been a beloved tradition, celebrating our heroic business leaders and Utah consumers who have helped build one of the strongest state economies in the nation. Now, under the stewardship of the Salt Lake Chamber and hosted by Chamber President and CEO Derek Miller, the program continues to shine a spotlight on those who make Utah's business environment dynamic and thriving. With his expertise and passion, Derek brings the stories of our business community to life. As part of the Salt Lake Chamber, Speaking on Business is proud to continue its legacy of highlighting inspiring stories, trends, and special guests. Support Utah businesses now and be part of Utah's thriving economy. More information can be found at slchamber.com. That's slchamber.com.
Any Hour Services can make sure your AC keeps you cool this summer. Whether you need a tune-up, repair, or just a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson.
Our goal every day on Inside Sources is to help you divide the rage from the reason, elevate the conversation, connect the dots, and make the news make sense in your world. We have conversations with great thinkers, with great leaders, and great people who are just out there making a difference in the world. Now, we do talk about politics, but only so we can discuss society and culture, and then we explore society and culture so we can discuss principles and the people in America and the state of Utah who actually live them and apply them every day. We bring the best and brightest minds to the state of Utah, and we love to take the Utah model and send it out to our nation's capital and beyond. Every day on Inside Sources, you'll be part of that conversation. To help you understand things in a different way, we'll get you to think again about what you think you know, but most important, we're going to help you have confidence to have crucial conversations in your community and in your own home.
Join Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson, 1 to 3 on KSL News Radio.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, 2 suspects have been arrested in the fatal shooting of a man at the Mount Olympus trailhead 10 days ago. Second, President Biden suggested he would attend the inauguration if former President Trump wins another term. Trump did not attend his inauguration in 2021. And third, the new owners of the shops at Southtown say they're looking to add businesses to the mall, not to close any. 84 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Boyd Matheson divides rage from reason on Inside Sources.
Well, recent debates and a lot of political rhetoric around family policy in America has created a lot of noise, a lot of chatter, a lot of clamor, but it underlies a fundamental question our country continues to grapple with, and that is, what is the role of government in promoting healthy, stable, successful families in America? It's a complicated question, very relevant question today, and a question that certainly deserves policy consideration, not just partisanship and politicization and polarization stuff. We're tired of that. So let's get beyond those headlines and get into the real context of the conversation, where we can talk about good policy and what that actually means. And someone who's done just that, Joe Waters, is the co-founder and CEO of Capita, a nonprofit focused on children and families. And he joins us today from Blowing Rock, North Carolina, and had a great piece in The Hill. You can check it out at thehill.com. And Joe, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Boyd. Great to be with you.
So obviously there's a lot of stuff going on out there, and sadly we kind of weaponize all of these things, especially as it relates to family policy. And sadly that only keeps us a safe distance from actually getting to good principles and policy. So as you look at this, what are the things that we're just missing in the conversation, especially rolling up to a real crucial election year?
Yeah, so first of all, thanks again for having me on. And my colleague Elliot Haspel and I have a piece in The Hill up today talking about the need to avoid polarization in family policy. We think that there's actually a lot Republicans and Democrats do agree on, and we should work to advance smart family policy and keep the polarization out of it as much as possible. I would name a couple of things. First of all, a robust child care policy that supports parental choices. So if you want external child care for your family, that needs to be supported. But we also need to support parents who choose to stay at home and take care of their children that way. We need strong paid parental leave policies. That would be something else that we would highly prioritize. And I think really the conversation needs to shift to how do we ensure the stability and the quality of family life, because we know that families and communities, strong families and communities, are the context in which children flourish as children, but it sets them up for a lifetime of success and opportunity.
Yeah, no question about that. And I want to dig into some of those and unpack them just a little bit. And actually want to start with the paid family leave. It's one of the things you pointed out in your piece in The Hill, is that this is an area where you have both of the vice presidential nominees who can say, we totally agree with each other on at least the concept of that. And to me, that deserves a little more attention and a little more unpacking.
Yeah, it certainly does deserve attention and unpacking. And I think, if you look back 30, 40, 50 years, I think it was Daniel Patrick Moynihan, the great senator from New York, who said, it is barbaric that we ask new parents, new moms in particular, in this country, in some cases, to go back to work 2 weeks after giving birth. We need a national paid leave policy. We obviously need to have business at the table. For that, we need to have unions and labor at the table to build something that works. Elliot and I were part of the Convergence Collaborative for supporting working families, and that group made some specific bipartisan recommendations earlier this year. I'll let Congress work out the details, right? Of course, there are a lot of different proposals out there in terms of breadth, how long, who this should include, and so forth. But I think for us, the principle is, how do we make sure that families, new parents in particular, new parents, have the time that they need to bond, to adjust, to heal with their newborn child, because that time is so critical. And anything short of just giving them months at least is, as Daniel Patrick Moynihan said, barbaric.
Yeah, and so important that all of that, the bond, heal, adjust. I think those are all things everybody can say, yeah, that totally makes sense. How do we make that happen? And I love that you mentioned that business has got to be at the table for that. And when you bring that kind of conversation together, you can actually get to some results where we say, yeah, that does make sense, and that's going to make stronger families, and stronger families are going to have children who are better adapted, doing better in school, that makes the community better. I mean, there's a ripple effect to all of that that I think is so significant. And I wanted to ask you included a great historical point in your piece in The Hill from President Roosevelt, talking about the fact that in this case he was talking to mothers, that he would even put those mothers ahead of the veterans of the Civil War. I thought that was a stunning statement.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Boyd, we've come to the point now in the history of our culture here in the 2024, where I think a lot of us consider parenthood a personal lifestyle choice. You choose to have parents, choose to have children, you choose to not have children. That is your choice. Obviously, we need children who will grow up to be good citizens and good workers, but that's your choice. And I think what President Theodore Roosevelt was saying here is that, no, in fact, choosing to become a parent, the act of becoming a parent is a contribution to the public good, a contribution to the strength of our society, a contribution to the strength of our public life, and the contribution to who we are as a country. But now, I will say, and our piece says it, we shouldn't denigrate people who choose not to have children. But at the same time, so we think we can have both things. We can affirm the important social value, as President Roosevelt was, of having children and raising children, while at the same time not denigrating or mocking those who choose not to have children or can't have children.
Yeah, and I think that is so vital in so many different areas. If we just avoid the fake fight and the false choice,
That's right.
It's just a very different conversation, because if you're weaponizing words or you're demonizing people, that never leads you anywhere positive, other than for those who want to raise a lot of money off of it as a wedge issue during a political campaign. And so I love the way you're framing all of that. Give us a sense, just in our last minute or so here, what are some other things that you're keeping your eye on that you think will help us get to those better conversations?
Well, one thing we're keeping our eye on is the critical role of better government support, the critical need for better government support for parents who choose to stay at home. So we have two senior fellows, Ivana Greco and Elliot Haspel, who are working on a big project around this. They're vital caregivers, and they need to be part of our overall child care system. Parents say they want more choices, they want more flexibility. We think government should build a child care system that enables that. So look for that. The other thing is, last year, 2023, was the first year with the majority of first-time births in the United States were to parents born since January 1st, 1997. Those are Gen Z parents. So Gen Z now, the majority of first-time parents last year. they're going to be parenting differently. We know that they've had all sorts of different experiences, from the financial crisis in 2008, 2011, to the COVID-19 pandemic when they were graduating college, graduating high school, entering the workforce. So we're keeping a close eye on how they're going to be parenting and how we can better support them.
Yeah, fantastic perspective. Joe Waters, co-founder and CEO of Capita. It's a nonprofit focused on children and families. Great piece by Joe and his tag team partner, Elliot Haspel, in The Hill today. Check that out at thehill.com. And Joe, thanks for joining us. Fantastic perspective. Great way to reframe the conversation to actually get the right kind of policy results that'll make a difference. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Boyd.
All right, we'll step aside for some bottom of the hour news. More Inside Sources coming up next on KSL News Radio. Stick around. We'll be right back.
It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top local story this hour. The Smith Entertainment Group says they have no plans to remove any businesses from the shops at Southtown as they work to build the Utah Hockey Club's new practice facility inside the old Macy's store. Buckle manager Brandon Anderson says he thinks the team will give them all a much-needed boost.
With the hockey, we think that's going to totally transition it. People will still come shop, obviously, but it's going to draw people just to the center, which is going to help us.
Anderson says he thinks the mall has needed something like this for a long time. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Talks on freeing the hostages still held by Hamas are scheduled to resume on Thursday, but there are increasing fears of a wider war in the Middle East. The U.S. State Department says a ceasefire deal could create conditions for the remaining hostages to be released, along with an increase in humanitarian aid for Palestinians in Gaza. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up on the day now, 389 points, while the NASDAQ is up 371. And our KSL weather, we could see another thunderstorm or two this afternoon. That's next. KSL News Time, 1:31.
Here's a way to get breaking news updates anywhere you go.
At the store or in a work meeting, you can get breaking news on your phone.
You can quickly read it, swipe, or click for more. It's super discreet, super fast.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
With Progressive, you get more than savings. You get access to us through our mobile app, online chat, or by phone.
Oh, I see what you're doing here, Jamie. Giving me all these ways to stay in touch so I have no excuse not to. Well, you're in luck, because this guy's in the market for a new BFF.
Actually, all our customers can contact us this way.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just kidding.
But I am always up for Taco Pizza!
Jigsaw! Get help from Progressive through the website, app, chat, or phone. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for up to half the cost. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Savings based on cost of Consumer Cellular single line 1, 5, and 10 gig data plans with unlimited talk and text compared to lowest cost single line postpaid unlimited talk, text, and data plans offered by T-Mobile and Verizon January 2024.
This August, support your Utah Symphony by getting your tickets for top-tier entertainment at Maurice Abravanel Hall. See aerial artists and dancers on stage with Cirque Cinema Troupe Vertigo. Get swept to sea at Pirates of the Caribbean in concert. Experience iconic classical works like Vivaldi's The Four Seasons and Mozart's Requiem. Right now, you can get the best available main floor seats for $25 at usuo.org/on sale.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa this weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa this weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandswimspasale.com.
Attention homeowners considering roof replacement in 2024. Light up your home this August with Master Roofing. Schedule your roof replacement by September 10th and receive a free V-Lux sun tunnel valued at $1,200. Perfect for brightening your bathrooms and hallways. Don't miss out. Visit masterroofingutah.com to schedule your free assessment and claim your free V-Lux sun tunnel. Call 801-383-0072 or visit masterroofingutah.com today. Light up your home with Master Roofing.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. And here's Michelle Rowe.
It's still pretty quiet out there. I'm seeing a little bit of slowing traffic. Northbound I-15 approaching 33rd South, going up to about 23rd South. Other than that, I-15 running smoothly. Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
Cooler weather today, a high of 86 with a chance of monsoon thunderstorms again this afternoon and tomorrow. Will dry out Thursday through Saturday with highs back into the mid-90s. 84 degrees, partly cloudy right now. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Get deeper insights on the news from inside sources.
This is an important conversation for all of us. You know, the delicate balance between fostering innovation, safeguarding things like national security is always a big concern. It should be a bigger concern, I think, for policymakers as well as industry leaders. With the global competitors vying for AI supremacy, that seems to be the conversation of the day. The decisions that get made in Washington, D.C. are going to have far-reaching implication for America's technological leadership and even some geopolitical standing. So obviously there's a lot of concerns about AI, rightfully so, but there's also ways that we can harness the power for good, that we can make sure we do the right protections in terms of the country's security and so on. And so let's have a conversation in the right way about this. Far too often the knee-jerk reaction is to, well, we just got to regulate the heck out of it. Which is what tends to come out of Washington, D.C. Really thrilled to have joining us on the program Nick Whitaker, fellow at the Manhattan Institute. And Nick analyzes emerging technology policy, focuses on artificial intelligence. He's also an editor and founder of Works in Progress. I love this. It's a magazine of new and underrated ideas in science, technology, and economics. And they're always crucial conversations. And Nick, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I love your piece in the City Journal where you talk about AI specifically and giving the right framing of what we really need is more understanding and maybe less regulation. Explain that for us.
Sure. So I think that AI is going to be the most consequential technology of this century, and it's going to have these wide-ranging implications both in our sort of economic standing and also our military standing. There's been a lot of questions about how to deal with this. You know, something like 500 bills are being considered at state legislatures and the federal government right now. And I think the question is, what should we do to put ourselves in the best economic position possible? And my takeaway is that right now it's often too early to regulate the technology. But I think that by building mechanisms in government to start to understand what AI is capable of, will create avenues for later action, whether it's to utilize that technology within government, to support the industry, or to integrate it into our national security apparatus.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important piece of it. And so kind of walk us through how you see that playing out. The number of bills, as you mentioned, is staggering when you look at both the local and the federal level in terms of what that is. But kind of walk us through how should we go about that understanding component to it? Obviously, there's still a lot of unknowns when it comes to the technology, but kind of describe what a path might look like in terms of not just jumping to the regulatory side of things, but that understanding and then building good policy around it.
Sure. So the important thing to realize with AI is that when an AI system is created through the deep learning process, not even the developers who create that system know exactly what that system is going to be capable of. They sort of don't know what the system has learned by its processing of data. So what happens inside labs after they create a new model is what's called evaluations. And those evaluations say, how good is this AI at answering questions? How good is this AI at generating images? How good is this AI at writing an essay? They ask all sorts of questions to figure out what the AI is capable of. But it's not just labs that are asking those questions. It's all sorts of people with throughout society. So there's an institute that's been set up in the U.S. government called the U.S. AI Safety Institute, and I think it's really important that this institute is empowered to do these evaluations, to ask the questions that are most important for government. Are these models, capable of handling data privately? Are these models capable of, useful sort of economic and military functions? And through that institute, we can sort of create avenues within government to understand where and how we can deploy these technologies. But the second way to build that understanding is just to start start procuring the technologies, procuring AIs, within the military and national security environment, and doing internal tests, doing small scale tests, so the people who will be later using these systems can get sort of hands-on experience and understand how they work and what they're capable of. So I think both, kind of having a part of government studying them and having a part of government using them is how you create that broad base of understanding throughout the U.S. government.
Yeah, that's super important. I'm glad you framed it that way. Give us a sense in terms of kind of the consequences if we do end up just doing the almost knee-jerk reaction, over-regulation of AI. And then give us one thing to kind of keep our eye on, especially as we roll into the fall and some of these things start to bubble up in terms of some actual votes and pieces of legislation.
Sure. So I think we've really seen, sort of the bad future in the European Union, where the new EU AI Act, and in combination with earlier tech bills in the UK, in the EU, have massively stifled industry. So in the next generation of iPhones, they're rolling out these Apple Intelligence features that do all sorts of handy stuff. Like if you write a problem out in your Notes app, it can give you kind of AI generated solutions to that problem. And Apple has already said that they might not be able to roll out these features in the EU at all because of the sort of regulatory threat that the European Commission has created there. So I think that's the future, a future where we sort of regulate every single use of AI within society, and often don't allow AI to be used at all.
And then rolling into the fall, give us one thing to keep our eye on as everything kind of marches forward.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a key question as the campaign gets further along, and I think what is Donald Trump and Kamala Harris going to say about AI? And I think Harris has sort of expressed this idea that we need to make sure that AIs aren't biased, and we need to make sure that that sort of AIs don't create social harms. I think Donald Trump has outlined an AI policy that's more permissive in sort of that the market is going to be able to figure some of these things out, but that there are these very important national security problems that we need to be aware of as we watch the development of AI. So I really think that people should be asking the candidates about how they're going to approach AI, and this is going to be one of the most important issues in the coming years.
Yeah, great perspective, great insight. Nick Whitaker, fellow at the Manhattan Institute. And Nick, great piece and great perspective as we deal with this emerging technology. As you said, it will be one of the highest impact components in the century. And what happens in terms of regulation, what happens in terms of understanding, it's going to have a big impact on all of us. Thanks so much for joining us today, Nick.
Thank you for having me.
All right, great perspective from Nick Whitaker there. And I love the fact that he's saying, hey, we can't just go to where government often does, and that is just a knee-jerk reaction to something new, and that is to regulate it. Often that stifles the innovation. You lose the creativity. You lose the competitive advantage. At the same time, we don't want things to just be willy-nilly and the wild, wild west. It's not saying that either. But I love the fact that Nick is saying the first thing we have to do is gain understanding. Understand first, get to policy and even to regulation second. And if you follow the sequence and you trust the process, you're going to get a better result in the end, which will both protect national security, protect the American people, and enable us to continue to have the things that we need as a country, both internally and around the world. We're going to step aside for a quick break. Don't go anywhere. There's been a lot of talk of late about tips and not taxing tips, and we're going to go to our Inside Sources Inside Source. Shane Nuttall's going to join us to talk about the potential impact that could have on the people it impacts the most. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Alpine Home Medical. We bring This is Jay Broadbent from Alpine Home Medical. I'm excited to let you know we're currently having a summer sale on power scooters. As we celebrate the spirit of freedom and independence, we want to make sure you have the chance to experience it. We have a wide range of power scooters designed to enhance your mobility, and they're all available at a discounted price. These special offers only come around every couple of years, and once they're gone, they're gone. Come visit us at any of our 11 locations to take advantage of these fantastic deals, or you can browse our selection of discounted scooters on our website. We're committed to providing the 5-star experience. We can't wait to assist you in finding the perfect power scooter. Visit us online at alpinehomemedical.com. That's alpinehomemedical.com.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
If you're looking for the perfect balance in a perfect meal, you're looking for Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. You're going to love the incredible choices. They've got it all, of course. It's a steakhouse, but they also have seafood and poultry, all kinds of amazing side dishes, and the desserts are absolutely off the chart. Incredible choices are waiting for you right now at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. And it's been a long summer. The kids are getting back in school. It's time for you to have a break. Make your reservation now for Ruth's Chris Steakhouse and let the pros do all the work. And they have 2 locations, Ruth's Chris Steakhouse in Hotel Park City and right in the heart of downtown Salt Lake City at 275 Southwest Temple. And don't forget, if you're planning for a party, a special event, a celebration, or a birthday, whatever it might be, it's time to contact Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, Park City and downtown Salt Lake City.
Dan owed an unbelievable amount of money to the IRS.
I got behind on my taxes. It's a horrible feeling.
He was in denial.
And when I got those letters from the IRS, you wanted to act like they didn't exist.
Finally, Dan turned to Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima got me a settlement with the IRS. These people are really people-friendly. It was every bit of a new lease on life for me.
The fast action and the great results made Dan's head spin.
I felt like I was in a dream, but it's real, and I have paperwork to prove it. They got the job done, and life is good.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation.
If you're worried about what's going to happen with the IRS, stop worrying. Make the call now.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
For over 22 years, speaking on business on KSL News Radio has been a beloved tradition, celebrating our heroic business leaders and Utah consumers who have helped build one of the strongest state economies in the nation. Now, under the stewardship of the Salt Lake Chamber and hosted by Chamber President and CEO Derek Miller, the program continues to shine a spotlight on those who make Utah's business environment dynamic and thriving. With his expertise and passion, Derek brings the stories of our business community to life. As part of the Salt Lake Chamber, Speaking on Business is proud to continue its legacy of highlighting inspiring stories, trends, and special guests. Support Utah businesses now and be part of Utah's thriving economy. More information can be found at slchamber.com. That's slchamber.com.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 in the morning, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel you attract people who tend to be compulsive or abusive?
Do you have money problems because of someone else's drinking?
Are you afraid or embarrassed to bring your friends home?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
More than half of all adults have a family history of alcoholism.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too. Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
Dave and Debbie.
It's impossible to digest and consume all of the news that's now coming at us through either social media or through web pages or through the radio. Pick what is most impactful in your life and focus on that. And that's what Dave and I do every single morning. We pick those issues that are most important to our listeners and we boil it down so it's digestible. It's simple to understand.
I think we're trying to find the essence of the story. You know, you can't be an expert on all things, but that doesn't mean you can't be curious and really find out more and educate yourself and learn the complexities of an issue. But I think all of us start at ground zero on everything. Ask questions, show that curiosity.
And then if you need more research, you can always go to KSLNewsRadio.com and learn more.
Listen for Dave and Dejanovic 9 to noon on KSL News Radio.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, business owners at the shops in Southtown say they're optimistic the new hockey practice facilities there will give them a boost. Second, talks on freeing the hostages still held by Hamas set to begin this week if a wider war in the Middle East can be avoided. And third, with school starting this week, police are telling us that flashing lights and stop arms on school buses are serious business. Right now, we're at 84 degrees with partly cloudy skies in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Boyd Matheson divides rage from reason on Inside Sources.
I've had to remind myself as I've been watching the presidential election unfold over the last few days that I'm not watching a national election for president of the United States rather than watching a fifth grade class election. With one candidate in the fifth grade class saying, we're going to have chocolate milk in the drinking fountains. And then the opposition says, and I will also have chocolate milk in the drinking fountain. And we've seen that. Former President Donald Trump, of course, made the announcement at a rally that he was going to pursue this path to make sure that tips are not taxed. And not to be outdone by that, in the last few days, Vice President Kamala Harris at a big rally also announced that I'm going to get rid of the tax on tips. And ironically, both of those were done in Las Vegas. We'll come back to that in just a moment. But we're going to bring in our Inside Sources Inside Source. Shane Nuttall is one of our extraordinary producers on this show. And I just have to give a shout out to both Shane and to Lindsay. Many of you ask me when you talk to me on the street or in other places, how do you do the show? How do you go about it? And it all starts with extraordinary producers who are constantly scouring for the right ideas, the right angle, tracking down the right guests to talk about things in the way we like to talk about them with you to create space. And so Shane and Lindsay do an extraordinary job. And Shane, it's nice to get you in front of a microphone now. I know you have thoughts.
Right. I'm in a different spot now. Thanks for having me on the show.
That's right.
Boy.
We're here to make you uncomfortable today. And you're someone who does work in the service industry, in the restaurant business.
I do. Right here in Salt Lake City in Mill Creek, I work at a restaurant called Stella Grill. As a server.
And so, of course, part of that is tips. And tipping in and of itself has become an interesting thing that we'll get to in all of this.
Oh, yeah.
But when you hear these candidates running for president saying it's almost the Oprah factor. You get a tax cut, you get a freebie this, you get that. What is it that you hear as someone who is in the middle of that industry?
I think it seems like a policy designed to try and rally excitement behind a candidate, to try and get voters energized of, I could get something immediate and beneficial if I throw my support behind this person. And it also seems very short-sighted. It just seems like a short-sighted policy meant for boosting electoral numbers and not sitting down thinking about a policy and saying, how can I benefit service workers and working people in America?
Yeah. You pointed out to me the fact that the location where both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump announced this policy and this commitment to people who depend on tips as part of their employment. Give us a perspective in terms of where that was and why you think that was.
Well, yes, they both announced it at rallies in Las Vegas. Trump a little bit ago, Kamala just recently. And, it wasn't until I saw the video of Kamala announcing, we will fight to end taxes on tips for service workers, that my eyes started to get wide a little bit of, this might actually become a thing, a policy position for now either side to adopt and completely absolve themselves of any accusations of the other side of trying to buy votes, trying to bribe their way in. Las Vegas is an intensely hospitality-based city. Right. Nevada is a very service-based state. And so trying to put forward a policy that sounds good in a certain electoral state because of the industries there, really, it seems like the end of political cynicism to me. But if the results of ending taxes on tips would be a net benefit, maybe I would have a better, more open outlook to it. But it does not seem to me that ending taxes on tips is going to make a big difference for service workers, because it doesn't seem like anyone's thought, at least in policy spaces, beyond the first and second step or just beyond November election, of what happens when all of service interactions, all of sales interactions, the whole consumer market in America gets boiled down to, hey, get this customer to give up more of their money.
Yeah.
And companies don't have to pay as much in wages to workers because it can be supplemented through tips, right? Yeah. So anyone who you can remotely classify as service industry or hospitality industry, if this gets adopted, will start asking for tips.
Right.
And we saw the first time that this tipping regime expanded beyond the select industries that tipping is a regular part of the sales process. America's attitude on tipping went down. People are angrier about it the more you have to cough up money at every sales interaction.
Yeah.
I don't want that trend to continue, and this policy really seems like it would super drive it.
Yeah, and I want to unpack that a little bit, because that was something you mentioned the other day, and this is part of what we do every day as we get the show ready, is we have these conversations together in terms of what does this mean and what's the real impact. And I agree. I don't think either Kamala Harris or Donald Trump really thought through the ramifications of this beyond the first Tuesday of November, and Nevada is really important electorally to actually get the win. And I know a lot of us and a lot of people have expressed this frustration of, man, when I just go to anywhere, they're asking for a tip. Even before I get anything, it's like a preemptive tip now. And so just kind of get us to the law of unintended consequences just in our last minute or so here.
If this gets started, you ain't seen nothing yet, like what could be happening. Flight attendants could start asking for tips. You go into Target or Walmart or Costco or a shoe store or a clothing boutique, and people will be expecting and asking for tips. When tipping just feels like someone shaking a tin can in every sales interaction. Consumers don't like it. Yeah. Consumers do not like it, understandably.
Yeah, and then the tipping, even for those who deserve a great tip, who provided an extraordinary service.
Precisely.
They're the ones who actually get hurt in the end.
Precisely, because the entire practice gets a bad name to it. And like it or not, this is, for some industries, how we've chosen to make the sales interaction happen in America, and just trying to buy votes for an election benefit doesn't seem like service workers are actually part of that discussion, or like this would help them.
Yeah, the law of unintended consequences is very big. And so whenever you're hearing, you get a freebie, you get this, you get that, it should put your spidey sense up, because the results are usually counter to what you're being sold. And we didn't even get into the real ramifications in terms of the inequity of why is it that the hardworking bus driver who doesn't get tips gets taxed more, whereas the person who's hardworking in the service industry is getting that tax break. We'll break that down. We'll get into that as we move forward in the week. Shane Nuttall, thank you so much for joining us. Great perspective on the real issue underneath the tipping. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to send Shane back outside. Appreciate him stepping in behind the mic today for some really important insight there. We'll step aside for some top-of-the-hour news. Don't go anywhere. We're going to go to a conversation with a reporter in Ukraine coming up next on KSL News Radio. Stick around. We'll be right back.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. 2 suspects have been arrested in the shooting death of Naud Welde at the Mount Olympus trailhead 10 days ago. Salt Lake County Sheriff says 20-year-old Mateo Martinez was arrested along with a 15-year-old in separate SWAT operations. 2 other people were injured in the same attack. With a rise in drivers ignoring the flashing stop arms on school buses, authorities urging the public to pay more attention.
It's time to start back up, and there's going to be buses picking up kids. And we need to pay extra attention to those kids and those buses and make sure we stop for them. We need to make sure they stay safe.
West Valley Detective Mike Millett emphasized that it's the law and a critical safety measure to remain stopped until the stop arms retract and the bus lights turn off. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Voters in Arizona and Missouri will have abortion questions on the ballot this fall in both states. The measures would expand and protect abortion rights. Several other states have also passed ballot issues on abortion since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade 2 years ago. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average now up 408 points as we approach the close of trading. The NASDAQ up right now 407. And our KSL weather. There might be another thunder shower this afternoon. We'll have that next. KSL News Time 2:01.
News doesn't just mean information or dates.
It's the story of our local history being told in real time.
Be a part of the story. This is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
We hope to be a part of your story. We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
My wife and I always loved doing everything together. Jiu-jitsu, kayaking, and intimacy was always on point. It was around my early 30s when I noticed a downward trend. Watching a lot of TV, putting on weight, and just full of self-doubt. I had tried another men's clinic with disappointing results. It's the personalized treatment I receive at Revive Men's Health that has been the complete game changer for me. I've got my energy and motivation back, I'm feeling stronger than I did in my 20s, and it made me a much better husband to my wife.
I'm Eric Ramos, healthcare provider at Revive Men's Health. If you're always feeling tired or moody, have a difficult time sleeping, or decreased libido, you may be suffering from low testosterone.
Book your free T-check and exam at Revive Men's Health, Salt Lake City. Call 801-263-7777. That's 801-263-7777. Or visit ReviveMen'sHealth.com.
In 2024, dating is a disaster. We've been ghosted, breadcrumbed, stuck in situationships.
Hi, I'm Debbie. I'm Caitlin. Welcome to our new podcast, Dating at Her Age.
Dating has been so dicey for us, so we asked KSL, can we launch an all-new podcast about it?
People use these dating apps. You're not really dating when you're on the dating app.
Dating at Her Age, brought to you by Mountain Home Services. A new episode drops every Thursday on KSLNewsRadio.com.
Hey Utah,
When it comes to guiding the growth of our state, you buzzed in with your comments, and we listened to what you had to say. Your feedback on the future of Utah's housing, water, transportation, and open space will continue to help our leaders make important policy decisions, preserving and improving our high quality of life in meaningful ways for years to come. So, thanks for speaking up. Learn more about our state's future at guidingourgrowth.utah.gov.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. And here's Michelle Rowe.
Well, it's pretty quiet out there right now. Not seeing any delays on I-15 from Ogden all the way to Provo. Just a little bit of slowing on Bangerter Highway around the 201 freeway in West Valley. It's time to get your tickets for Utah Symphony and Utah Opera this season. Right now, get the best available main floor seats for just $25 at usuo.org/on sale. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
Cooler today with a high of 86. A chance of monsoon thunderstorms again this afternoon and tomorrow. Then we'll dry out Thursday through Saturday with highs back into the mid-90s. 84 degrees, mostly cloudy right now. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com for Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources.
Inside Sources.
America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson.
On Utah's home for elevated conversation.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, Russia has redeployed some of its troops from the front lines of the war in Ukraine to help contain the breakthrough that Ukraine has achieved over the last week. That's a promising sign, and we're all waiting to know how Ukraine can capitalize on this momentum and change of course in the war. So let's look beyond the headlines and let's get underneath to someone who is actually inside Ukraine. Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
As we continue to watch things unfold in Ukraine, of course, a lot happening, a very fluid situation there. And clearly, Ukraine has proven out a couple of things over the last few weeks in terms of their ability to maneuver, Russia's inability to maneuver, to only do what the Russians have done very well, and that's amass military and soldiers and press forward 1 inch at a time. And now things continue to change, and so we want to dig a little deeper and a little underneath the headlines today on that. And we are very thrilled to have joining us on the program today Joseph Roche. Joseph wrote a fantastic piece for The Dispatch. You can check that out at thedispatch.com. And Joseph is a journalist, and he's actually inside of Ukraine, so he's going to give us a real sense of things and the state on the ground. And Joseph, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
So give us your sense, being inside of Ukraine, and obviously there's a sense of a momentum shift, whether it's a game changer or a sustainable change, we're not sure quite yet, but what is the sense there on the ground?
Well, for now, I would say that everyone is being very careful about not rejoicing too fast, because it's hard to know what are going to be the outcomes of this offensive. But what is sure is that being in Ukraine since 3 years now, I would say that's the moment where I saw the heart being that up since the beginning of the full-scale war. Even during the counteroffensive in 2022, we did not see this level of rejoice and hope in Ukraine.
Yeah, and it does seem that regardless of what the military result is on the back end, the front end in terms of morale, and I think sending a message not just to Vladimir Putin, but really to the allies around the world that Ukraine is in it to win, and that they do have some capacity to change the dynamic of the war.
Yeah, I think it's one of the possible reasons behind this offensive, like a desire from Ukraine to shift the narrative. Because over the last few months, we saw Russia grinding down Donbass front line, and also negotiation looming more and more. Mm-hmm. And I think Ukraine doesn't want to have any kind of negotiation on its own territory, because it will mean that they will lose territory, and they know that Russia would use these territories as springboard for further attacks. So they know that they had to shift the narrative to show themselves as winners. And that's something that Zelensky said over and over, saying that the war doesn't like loser, and we have to show ourselves as winners. So we need to have victories.
Yeah, and give us a sense in terms of the European allies in particular, Germany specifically, has sort of caught that and said, look, when we provide military weapons, when we give them to Ukraine, they're Ukraine's weapons, and Ukraine can use them however they choose. The U.S. is still a little bit calculated in terms of what they're saying in terms of use of weapons inside of the Russian territory.
Very much so, but as far as I know, I don't know if the weapons that Ukrainians are using within the territory of Russia at the moment are on the list of forbidden weapons, like, for instance, the Atacams that America forbid Ukraine to use. I don't think there is any kind of interdiction in using some of those weapons.
Yeah, and so as you look at how that kind of projects forward, especially knowing that winter is coming, and I'm sure that Vladimir Putin would love to get to winter and then kind of bolster his troops. What's the sense there as the seasons start to change?
It's hard to say. I think also, I mean, there is a lot of scenario that we can discuss, but I think one of the reasons also behind the offensive was to stop the momentum in Donbass, because for the last few weeks, Russia was able to gain more and more tactical victories within the Donbass. And so one of the explanations behind this offensive was to force Russia to redeploy its troops to fight and defend Kursk region. For now, we don't see any kind of shift on the front line, on the eastern front line, but it's hard to say. Maybe the momentum is going to slow down around Torsk, hard to say. But what is sure is that Ukraine is trying to win time for the winter, because the rain season is going to start soon, slowing down the operation, meaning that it's pretty much impossible like to drive with a tank or APV. And then forcing Russians to fight on Ukrainian territory and maybe Russian territory, and force Russia to lose more and more soldiers. And of course, expecting a political cost for the Kremlin.
Yeah. And give us any other insight or anything else you're hearing as it relates to the Russian forces. We've heard a lot recently in terms of just kind of the morale of the Russian troops, in terms of not getting paid or not having the right equipment or medical care or whatever it may be. Anything you're hearing from your perspective in terms of kind of the attitude and the mindset of the Russian forces?
Well, it's hard to say because I'm not on the Russian side, but what I know following Russian Telegram channels, of course, a lot of Russian soldiers are really discontent with the situation. But we have to keep in mind that first and foremost, Russia is a dictatorship. So it's not like they have really much, like they don't have much to say about their own situation. They are being sent as cannon footers. And also within the Russian army, people fighting are mostly people from the suburbs, poor people, ethnic minorities like Buryat, Dagestanis, Chechen. They are not people from the city. They are not from Moscow. They are not from St. Petersburg. And actually what is interesting with this offensive is the soldiers who were keeping the border were conscripts. And a lot of them were kids from the cities, because the parents had enough money to bribe the authorities for them not to go to fight in Donbass.
Right.
And so actually it's going to come as a political cost for Russia to have those kids on the front line. But when it comes to the actual hotspot like Donbass and Kharkiv and also Zaporizhia Oblast, the Russian soldiers, of course, are suffering a lot. They don't have a lot of equipment. But it's not like the Putin regime is taking much care of their lives,
right,
and they desire not to die.
Yeah. Give us one last thing before I let you go. This is such fascinating perspective on how this is playing out. Give us something that you're watching for in the weeks ahead that may be just a little underneath the headlines of some things that you're keeping your eye on in terms of, does this current movement at the front line and these incursions into Russia, does that turn into momentum and really to a movement?
What we are all looking forward, of course, and looking for is whether or not Ukraine is going to be able to exploit the momentum of this offensive. For now, it's very hard to say. We don't have a lot of information. We literally have a fog of war on the Ukrainian side. I think they are trying not to repeat the same mistake as they did during the counteroffensive in the south last year. So they really try to be very silent on what's happening. I had a very, very hard time to contact people. And I've been here for 3 years. I know a lot of soldiers fighting, and no one really answered to me. And I just had the chance to have few people give me very, very shy comments. So it's hard to know what's happening. So what we are looking at the moment is whether or not Ukraine is going to be able to keep the momentum, whether or not it's going to have an impact on the East Front, whether or not Ukraine is here to stay. I know that we saw engineer combat units in Kursk, so meaning that either they want to destroy the logistic, either they want to start digging trenches. So it's hard to say. So for now, what we want to know is like, what is this offensive for? What are the outcomes expected by Ukraine, and whether or not they are going to be able like to turn this, for now, successful offensive into a real strategic success.
Yeah, fantastic perspective. Joseph Roach is a journalist in Ukraine, a contributor to the counteroffensive, and as I mentioned, has a fantastic piece with our friends at The Dispatch, thedispatch.com. And Joseph, we appreciate you staying up very late for us and some great perspective from inside of Ukraine. We look forward to continuing the conversation. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
A lot of great information there from inside Ukraine, and we're going to stay with that conversation. There's so many moving parts, a lot of different players as it relates to what's going on with Ukraine, their offensive into Russian territory. What that will and won't mean in terms of that battle, especially rolling into winter. And so we're going to stay with that conversation. When we come back, we're going to go back to my conversation with Jonathan Sweet to look at some of the military components to all of that and also how it will impact the politics of it all right here in the United States. So stay with us. More Inside Sources coming up next.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. Summer recess is ending.
The first of 24 Utah school districts is welcoming their students back to the classroom.
And it's not just kids dreading the first day.
This year, parents are expecting to spend $875 on back to school.
Rely on KSL to stay out of the red.
Lean into shopping secondhand. I do it all the time. I've done it for years.
We have you covered for back to school this week on KSL News Radio.
That precious cool air inside your house shouldn't be seeping out through old drafty windows, but if it does, get stylish new windows and frames at factory direct pricing from Advanced Window Products. This is Jeff Kaplan. Advanced Window Products has been building windows here in Salt Lake City for 38 years. But even if you don't need windows, they can give your interior a fresh new look with blinds, shades, and shutters from Graber. They offer custom crafted window treatments featuring the trendiest designs, premium materials, and quality without compromise. Advanced Windows offers start-to-finish service with shorter lead times so you get your custom blinds, shades, and shutters sooner. Call them for a free in-home consultation with their designers. It's a no-pressure experience, and if you need new windows, $2,500 off on 10 windows or more. Or if you need window treatments, it's Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindowsusa.com.
The best things in life, they come in twos. 2 scoops of ice cream, 2 tacos. And now for a limited time, get our best deal of the year. Buy any phone when you switch to Consumer Cellular and get 2 months of service free. That's right, the same fast, reliable nationwide coverage as Big Wireless, now with 2 months free. Proof the best things in life really do come in twos. Visit consumercellular.com or call 1-888-FREEDOM. Second and third month of monthly base service fee waived for new customers with the purchase of a phone and activation by September 2nd, 2024. Taxes, fees, and third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
This is the story of the one. As a facility technician installing a new welding station, he knows getting the ventilation right is critical for safety. That's why when questions arise, there's Grainger. Grainger offers detailed technical product information online at his fingertips, so it's easy to find what he needs. Because when it comes to safety, having answers means he and his people can breathe a little easier. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates. This weekend only, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. apply. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
For over 22 years, speaking on business on KSL News Radio has been a beloved tradition, celebrating our heroic business leaders and Utah consumers who have helped build one of the strongest state economies in the nation. Now, under the stewardship of the Salt Lake Chamber and hosted by Chamber President and CEO Derek Miller, the program continues to shine a spotlight on those who make Utah's business environment dynamic and thriving. With his expertise and passion, Derek brings the stories of our business community to life. As part of the Salt Lake Chamber, Speaking on Business is proud to continue its legacy of highlighting inspiring stories, trends, and special guests. Support Utah businesses now and be part of Utah's thriving economy. More information can be found at slchamber.com. That's slchamber.com.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Email from school about the incident today.
Scary.
You know, teachers like me, parents, we don't always know as much as you guys do about what's going on with other kids.
Half the time, it's rumors.
Yeah, but if you're ever concerned about a friend who's having trouble with alcohol, prescription drugs, anything, you need to tell an adult, someone you know and trust. That can be hard, but speaking up about a problem is what helping a friend is all about.
For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Social Security is with you through life's journey from birth to retirement. As your life changes year to year, so do your needs. For over 80 years, Social Security has helped to meet your needs and is committed to improving access to the services that make a difference in your life. Today, you can verify your earnings, estimate your future benefits, apply for retirement, manage your benefits, and even change your address, all from the comfort of your home. Social Security's online services help put you in control with secure access to your information anytime, anywhere, allowing you to spend more time with family, friends, or simply just enjoying the day. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. See what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
If you can plan barbecues and weddings, you can plan to protect yourself from a natural disaster. Sign up for local alerts, prepare an emergency kit, and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, sheriff's deputies have arrested 2 suspects in the shooting death of a man at the Mount Olympus trailhead earlier this month. Second, Arizona and Missouri are the latest states to add ballot issues on abortion to the election this fall. And third, the Salt Lake City Council is hearing a zoning proposal on the downtown entertainment district from the Smith Entertainment Group today. 84 degrees, mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Get deeper insights on the news from Inside Sources.
Over the weekend, the Army of Ukraine mounted an offensive campaign into Russian territory, taking the fight and the war to the Russians. So far, it's been a success, and we see the Russian military definitely on their back foot, at minimum, as the Ukrainians have outmaneuvered the Russian army in significant ways. So we want to take a look at what happened and what are the next steps in the operation. What does that mean, and what role will the United States continue to play in all of this, along with our other allies around the world? As we often do, we turn to retired Colonel Jonathan Sweet. He served 30 years as a military intelligence officer, led the U.S. European Command Intelligence Engagement Division from 2012 to 2014. And Colonel, welcome back to the show. And this is such an interesting moment in all of this, where suddenly Ukraine is not just in, as you and I have discussed many times, not just holding the line, but is actually pushing forward now. Give us your sense in terms of what's happened over the last 10 days and what's the lay of the land.
Well, thanks, first of all. Thanks for having us back on.
I think it may have even caught Ukraine by surprise. I think it was probably a cross-border raid that was going on, and they experienced success, and they exploited success, and they continued to exploit success at a rate which I think they didn't even think they're going to. But I also think there's a lot of good reconnaissance being done along the border in which they found those soft spots. Russia's been massing troops along the border in certain areas, and in this particular area, I think they were one deep. They didn't have established defensive positions, rather border stations. And once they got through that first echelon, it just opened up. And now Russia is reacting, and Ukraine has seized the initiative. It's changed the landscape of the war in that part of Ukraine.
Yeah, no question about that. One of the things you wrote in your piece, again, that appeared in the Kyiv Post, you and Mark wrote, I thought so importantly, that Putin's army can lay siege, it can inch forward, usually bleeding bodies, but it can't maneuver. Talk to us about that for just a second and how that might impact what happens next in this battle.
Yeah, so if you go back and look at the last 2.5 years of this war, the Russian military has been very effective at massing infantry, massing artillery against an objective, and just relentlessly hitting it over and over and over again until the Ukrainian military has exhausted their ammunition and has had to withdraw from the area. So Russia's not an army of maneuver. Rather, Russia's an army of mass. Ukraine's more situated for maneuver. So now that Russia has their frontline echelons have been defeated, they have to reposition forces to contend with the threat as it goes deeper into Russia. And Russia doesn't maneuver well. So what they're doing, you'll see. I mean, you see on Twitter, you see on other social media platforms, they're throwing guys in the back of trucks, and they're sprinting to the next fight, and that's exposing them. So no longer does Ukraine have to target them in trench lines. Ukraine now has convoys full of trucks, 20 to 30 each, and they're just taking them out on the highway. So there's been a very high casualty rate of Russian soldiers that have been repositioning from one position to the other.
Yeah, and as you look at that play out, I think one of the things that is striking to me that clearly President Zelensky is fighting to win this. We've talked a lot about the fact that if you're just playing not to lose or you're just playing to maintain, that's rarely a winning strategy. And when you back up that desire to play to win with the assets required, then everything changes. And it seems to me that we're at that kind of inflection point where people could say, look, the Ukrainians are playing to win. They are clearly proving they can win. And maybe it is time to ratchet that up in terms of providing them the things that they need to not just maintain, but to win.
Absolutely. And I think that was part of the calculus, which is I can show the United States and I can show the West that I have the capability of doing this. And look, Germany of all countries, the country that will not provide a Taurus missile system to Ukraine, has told Ukraine and also Russia that, hey, when we give you the weapons, it's your weapon to use however you see fit. The U.S., on the other hand, the spokesperson from the State Department a couple of days ago said there's been no change to U.S. policy, meaning you can't use U.S. weapons to target Russians in Russia. So it's this tug of war, and it's almost as if by Germany doing one thing, they're kind of shaming the United States to actually do something to provide a little bit more. But the opportunities on the combat on the battlefields only arise at certain times, and he who gets there first wins. And right now, Ukraine has the initiative, what they need, because it's going to be hard to sustain this. I mean, they're 40 kilometers inside the country. They have extended lines of communications. They need something to either continue the attack or they're going to have to go to ground and defend what they own. And once they go to ground, Russia gains the advantage now because Russia is going to be able to mass artillery and mass infantry on top of them. So it's a chess game, and right now Ukraine has the initiative and Russia is on its heels. The only way to keep them on their heels is to continue being aggressive and pursue.
Yeah, give us one last thing to look for, especially as we move into the fall. We know as things start to get a little bit colder there, when we kind of get into the cold grind of winter months. What should we be watching for in the weeks and the next 6 to 8 weeks before we get into late fall and into winter?
So let's take a look at the targets that Ukraine's been going after recently. They've been going after additional oil terminals and refineries. During this attack, they attacked one of the largest natural gas facilities. It's a metering station that 50% of natural gas that goes to Europe comes from that metering station. So they're attacking Russia's pocketbook. But again, at the same time, because Russia has to maneuver, Russia's losing people at a higher rate that they're going to be able to sustain for the near term. And also what we're seeing is the repositioning of tanks. And we're starting to see, again, T-55 tanks, Korean War vintage, soldiers being outfitted without modern weapons. And we're seeing more conscripts, something that Putin has told his population. Conscripts aren't in the war. Conscripts are, back in other areas. So he really has he's really in a difficult situation as far as how he's going to react. I suspect, though, they're going to do what they normally do. They're going to mass as much as they can, and in the meantime, they're going to start hitting civilian targets again as hard as they can, as often as they can, to try to get Ukraine to back off.
Great perspective, as always. I appreciate your perspective, Colonel Jonathan Sweet. And again, great piece in the Kyiv Post with Jonathan Sweet and, of course, also a friend of the show, Mark Toth. And, Colonel, we appreciate your perspective. This is going to be a very crucial season in this battle for Ukraine, and we appreciate you joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me back on board. I appreciate it.
All right. Again, that's Jonathan Sweet joining us on the program, and as always, we appreciate him making time. I know he is out of the country and staying up late for us to give us some great insight in what's happening and what Ukraine is doing, why it matters, and how it could be one of those tipping point moments. We'll watch to continue to see what happens next. We'll step aside for bottom of the hour news. More Inside Sources coming up next.
It's 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bonas. KSL's top story this hour, scammers getting more detailed using small pieces of information about you to try and extract more. They might have your birthday, your credit union, even the last four digits of your card. Digital security expert Zulfikar Ramzan says one of the best things you can do when you get one of these messages is contact the agency the caller claims to be directly instead of the number left on the voicemail or text.
The best way to approach that is not to assume that an inbound phone call or message is coming from a legitimate source. Instead, it's better to figure out what the legitimate source is and call them directly.
Ramzan says there are programs that will scrub your data from the internet, but he also recommends just being cautious about providing information. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Google has just a small share of the smartphone market compared to Apple and Samsung, but they're hoping to gain more with new models introduced today. They have more memory than current models with AI features built in. One creates a searchable log of your phone conversations. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average closing trading today up 408 points. The NASDAQ was up 407. The S&P 500 was up 90. And our KSL weather. We've got some sunshine right now, but that doesn't mean we won't see another thunderstorm today. That's next. KSL News Time, 2:31.
You know what's great about KSL's traffic coverage? Trained traffic reporters and real listeners.
Trading information and making the commute safer and faster for everyone.
Every 10 minutes on the nines, we have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Are you within 5 years of filing for Social Security? Get this. 96% of Americans forfeit an average of $111,000 in Social Security income. And it's all because they filed for their benefits at the wrong time. Learn how you could avoid this with a free, customized Social Security analysis from Boss Retirement Solutions, 5-time winners of the Best of State Award. If you've saved more than $200,000 for retirement and have not filed for Social Security, schedule your free analysis now by calling 801-896-9622. You know, for some people, filing for Social Security early could result in more net income in retirement. Discover how you could get the most income from Social Security. Call 801-896-9622. 801-896-9622.
Advisory services offered through Boss Retirement Advisors, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. Insurance products and services offered through Boss Retirement Solutions.
When I was looking for the best way to get rid of all the unwanted fat weight I'd accumulated over the last couple of decades, I wanted two things. One was something fast, and two, something that was guaranteed to work. I found both in Soda Weight Loss. I wanted fast and effective? How about letting go of 70 pounds in just 5 months? Soda's great because it doesn't involve any injections or pills. Sure, those might work in the short term, but what happens when you stop taking them? You very often gain it all back and then some. Soda's program delivers results that last a whole lifetime. Find out why Soda is the #1 weight loss company in America for client satisfaction and client results. Go to sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com. Click the Request a Nutritionist callback button. Within minutes, you'll be on your way to getting back your confidence, improving your health, and learning how to keep it like that for the rest of your life. Remember, SOTA stands for State of the Art.
Attention homeowners considering roof replacement in 2024. Light up your home this August with Master Roofing. Schedule your roof replacement by September 10th and receive a free V-Lux sun tunnel valued at $1,200. Perfect for brightening your bathrooms and hallways. Don't miss out. Visit masterroofingutah.com to schedule your free assessment and claim your free V-Lux sun tunnel. Call 801-383-0072 or visit masterroofingutah.com today. Light up your home with Master Roofing.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Michelle Rowe.
It's pretty quiet out there, Dan. Looking at good speeds, I-15 from Ogden all the way to Provo, looking at a KSL travel time of about 18 minutes from downtown to Draper. Fill up your bucket list in Box Elder County. History, recreation, wildlife, excellent dining, and shopping await you. Learn more at visitboxeldercounty.com. Sponsored by the Utah Office of Tourism. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
We'll peak at a high of 86 today, but that's considerably cooler than it's been, and there's a chance of monsoon thunderstorms again this afternoon and tomorrow. Then we dry out Thursday through Saturday with highs back into the mid-90s. And right now we're at 84 degrees with partly cloudy skies. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, NBC's innovative approach to covering the Olympics this year sparked a conversation about the future of televised events of all kinds. By integrating celebrities into the programming, the network not only boosted viewership, but also created a fresh, engaging perspective on traditional sports reporting, so a little different from things that have happened in the past. The strategy raises a lot of question of how you can apply that to other high-stakes broadcasts, particularly political coverage. That's one we haven't really thought through. Really pleased to have joining us on the program Joanna Weiss, a writer based in Boston, contributing writer for Politico magazine, and actually has a great piece about this very thing of what happens when you send Snoop Dogg to the Olympics and what would happen if you sent him to a political convention. And Joanna, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Great Politico piece, and give us kind of the breakdown. Obviously, NBC was trying to shake things up. You mentioned in your piece kind of bouncing off of Tokyo, which was obviously compounded by COVID and no fans in the stands. But what is it that they were going after? What do you think they achieved?
Yeah, they were really trying to recover from some pretty dismal ratings from the Tokyo Games. And one of the ideas that they had was to bring celebrities into the coverage. Now, they had their traditional network, then they had their Peacock streaming service, they had some online channels, and they really deployed a whole bunch of celebrities that you usually don't see associated with sports events. So everyone knows about Snoop. Every time you turned on any channel, there's breaking, there's Snoop, there he is in the soccer stadium, there he is, he's dancing in the gymnastics arena. He was everywhere. They had more. They had Colin Jost from Saturday Night Live out in Tahiti doing coverage and commentary about surfing. They had Kenan Thompson and Kevin Hart. They were in LA, but they did a weekly recap show, or every few nights, a recap show where they would just kind of go through the coverage and do like a comedy version of it. You could hear the crew laughing every time they said a word. And then they had some really non-traditional people. There is a very popular podcaster with 20-something women named Alex Cooper. She has a podcast called Call Her Daddy. It's a little out there, certainly for a traditional sports network, but she did her own version of these watch parties, and they were, for a certain audience that might not tune into sports as much, they were really compelling.
Yeah, and that's what I thought was some of it I thought, okay, that was a little much, or man, is Snoop really in all those places, or have we really perfected AI so we've got Snoop in every arena? But it does bring that very important question that we now want to apply to the political space, and that is, how do you get people who normally don't follow or who don't normally tune into a particular event, whether it's the Olympics or whether it's a convention? Democrats are coming up on Chicago on Monday of next week. What would the strategy be there, and how do you think that could play to actually bring more people into that conversation?
Yeah, so the convention is coming next week. We have been, the traditional news networks and the cable networks have been covering conventions for pretty much the same way since at least the 1990s. I mean, you've got, everyone comes with their giant crews, and they've got the skyboxes with the anchors, and they've got the people on the ground, and they're covering everything kind of the same way with the two parties. In reality, we know that the political world has just been upended by Donald Trump. The theatrics are out of control. Social media has changed the way everybody interacts. The dynamics have changed completely, and yet TV coverage really hasn't. So I, in Politico, wrote a somewhat modest proposal, but thought, what if we brought that Olympic celebrity spirit and applied it to the convention? What if we did have Snoop roaming around and having conversations with voters? What if we did have comedians? What if we had people who approached politics from the perspective of someone who's not a political junkie and tried to kind of illuminate politics for people who might otherwise not want to pay attention?
Yeah, and I think that, to me, that was the thing that caught my attention was how we do this different. As you described it, networks have been doing this the same forever, and it's, get the person on the floor with the microphone, get the camera guy who can pick out the person with the craziest hat and red, white, and blue gear, all the stereotypical caricatures that you have at a convention. But the thing that I love most about your piece was really getting to this idea of the fact that some of these celebrities, not being there for their own political interests, but to ask questions in a different way that would create space for more people to say, yeah, that's what I would have asked them.
Exactly. And I'll go back to Alex Cooper, who did some interviewing of Simone Biles, both for NBC and on her own podcast. And Simone Biles is in her audience demographic. And the kinds of questions she asked and the kinds of answers she got back just were different than what you get. Not to knock traditional sports coverage. There's a place for it. But there's a different dynamic, and there's both a different power dynamic. One thing that Alex Cooper does is approach these athletes really as a super fan. She's not trying to be an objective journalist. It's not what she is. And that creates just a different dynamic, a different line of questioning. It's additive, but it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I love that. And give us one last thing. If you could wave your magic wand for the Democratic convention next week. If only the Republicans had not already had theirs, we'd throw that in too. But for the Democrats next week, is there a personality or a question or a reframing of the traditional coverage? What would you do if you were producing?
Ooh, if I had the power of a network executive, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to knock Snoop, but maybe get Snoop and Martha Stewart together and have them do a little roundtable with the politicians. Maybe I'd start there.
Great stuff. Joanna Weiss, based in Boston, great writer, contributing writer for Politico magazine. Really fun piece, but a really thoughtful piece. It got me thinking again about how we approach things and how do we get to the better questions, the different questions, the non-predictable questions that always lead us to better answers and more insight. And there's nowhere we need that more than in our political discussions. Joanna, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Great perspective there from Joanna Weiss. Again, if you want to check out the piece in Politico magazine, and that would be a fascinating thing to play out. If you had Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart in the stands at the Democratic convention next week in Chicago, would you tune in? If they were doing a sit-down with either of the candidates, whether it's sitting down with the vice president or sitting down with the nominee for vice president, Governor Walz, what would you have him ask? Because I do think that's an interesting thing. As some of these celebrities Again, set aside the politics of the celebrity individual, but they would ask different questions. And I think it would be instructive and kind of illuminating in terms of what really matters to these candidates and to these political parties. What is it that matters most? And I think that's an important thing that we need to get to. I think we've become so stale in our approach to a lot of these things that, again, most people are just kind of tuning it out. And it's not just tuning out conventions. Conventions, I think, for the most part, have become pretty worthless. And actually, if you look at the Democratic convention coming up next week in Chicago, there's really no business to be done. There's nothing that has to happen there because they already nominated Kamala Harris to be the nominee and Governor Walz to be the vice presidential nominee. They did it virtually. And so in terms of things that they actually have to do, I mean, there's some behind-the-scene things in terms of their platform, which nobody really reads on either side of the aisle. So there's nothing that has to be done, and there's no surprises in terms of what is going to play out in Chicago, similar to what happened with the Republicans in Milwaukee a little while ago. And so it's also predictable. It's really just a very long, kind of painful infomercial for both political parties. So how do you change that up? I think Joanna's come up with one scenario. I think there's other things out there that could be done to change the dynamic a little bit and get to the better conversation so that more people, especially younger people, would want to tune in, that they would tune in from wherever they were. I think that's one of the big challenges of the time for political parties and for elected officials is to meet voters where they are. And so how are you going to get there? And what is it going to take to get voters you don't normally talk to either in the room or on the podcast or around the conversation? Because we need more people involved in it, not less. And so creating space for that to happen, I think, is a crucial conversation to be had. All right, we'll step aside for one last break. We'll come back with some final thoughts on Inside Sources. Stick around. We'll be right back.
In a world where ugly siding, leaky gutters, and inefficient windows are sapping homeowners of their will to live, one company must save us all. This year, join RGS Exteriors as it embarks on a mission to eliminate outdated home exteriors, one Utah home at a time. Every plank of old, ugly siding must be replaced. Every leaky gutter must be eradicated. Every inefficient, energy-sapping window must be vanquished. Once and for all. Begin your epic remodeling quest by calling RGS Exteriors for a free estimate. Discover how a heroic team of experts will save your siding, gutters, or windows for a fair, no-nonsense price. Call RGS Exteriors at 801-280-3110 or journey online to rgsexteriors.com. RGS Exteriors, coming soon to a home near you.
This week's movie show brought to you by My Hearing Center. Schedule a hearing evaluation. Be entered to win a set of premium hearing aids by tuning in Friday from 10 to 1.
My name is Ariel. When I arrived in the U.S. at 19, I struggled to find job opportunities without my high school diploma. My entire life changed when I took a chance and got my high school diploma at age 22. Everything I have, my education, my career, my marriage, I owe to the Adult Literacy Center and my teachers. They were with me every step of the way, helping with my English and math, making sure I push through all the challenges.
Ariel, your success proves that what I'm doing as a teacher has real meaning.
It was an honor helping you achieve your greatness. Now you're helping others achieve theirs. It inspires me.
Education was the key that unlocked all my opportunities.
When you graduate, they graduate. Find free and supportive adult education centers near you at finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Hi everyone, it's Congressman Blake Moore here. One of my top priorities in Congress is addressing our crippling national debt, which has surpassed $35 trillion for the first time in American history. For the sake of the next generation's ability to achieve the American dream, Congress must take action to rein in our government spending and more efficiently and responsibly spend our federal resources. I'm working hard in Congress to craft policy proposals that lower our spending and deficits. On the House Budget Committee, we introduced our budget resolution for fiscal year 2025. According to the Budget Committee majority, this resolution proposes no new taxes, grows the economy over 3 times faster than the debt, balances the budget in 10 years, and much more. We've also passed through committee common sense legislation that would require transparency to the American people about the state of our nation's finances so big government can be held accountable. It is an honor to bring Utah's sound fiscal policy to Washington, and I will continue to fight for the American family as we seek to give our children a better economic future. Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
This is the story of the one. As a warehouse manager, her job is to transform chaos into clarity and to see patterns where others see problems. Luckily, she's got a partner who shares her perspective. Grainger offers over 1 million industrial-grade products, backed by real-person support and in-depth online resources, so she can tackle every task with precision and turn potential setbacks into streamlined success. Call clickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Flo here from Progressive to tell you how you get more than great savings with us. You get customer service access through our mobile app, online chat, or by phone.
That's a lot of ways I can get in touch with you. I see what's going on here. You can't name favorites, but I'm your #1 customer.
Actually, we offer all our customers these ways to contact us.
I'm sure you give just any customer your personal
company
contact info.
Well, you did call us more than any other customer this year. So in that sense, you are our #1 customer.
Get help from Progressive through the website, app, chat, or phone. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Life can feel hard or overwhelming sometimes, but you don't have to face things alone. Getting help for yourself or someone you're worried about starts with a call or text to 988, where you always have someone to talk to, someone to help you, and somewhere safe to go. 988 Utah is here for anyone experiencing mental health challenges or emotional distress. 988 Utah can even help you navigate how to support your struggling loved ones. Whether you're struggling with anxiety, depression, or suicidal thoughts, trained professionals are ready to listen and provide free, confidential support 24/7. Utah, don't hesitate to call or text 988 for you or someone you care about. The caring staff at 988 Utah can connect you to the right resources. Learn more at 988lifeline.org.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa this weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa this weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, scammers are finding new ways to make you think their texts or phone calls are legit. Second, Google has just a fraction of the smartphone market compared to Samsung or Apple, but they're rolling out new phones, hoping to attract more business. And third, the mayor of Los Angeles says her city is feeling pressure to make sure they're ready to host the Olympics again in 4 years. 84 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Get deeper insights on the news from Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It's great to be with you today. As always, I am Boyd Matheson. As we round things out today, we've covered a lot of ground. Everything from Ukraine to how we actually deal with things like tips. It's the popular giveaway of the day for political candidates. We're going to get rid of the taxing of tips. Sounds nice. You'd think it would be a great thing. I do not think it's a surprise in any way, shape, or form that both the Harris campaign and the Trump campaign, while they will argue with each other about who came up with the idea first, because that's what you do in a campaign. Well, I said it first. No, I said it first. We were thinking about this a long time ago, and you battle back and forth. But it is no coincidence that both campaigns were united in where they chose to talk about that policy idea. In Nevada, in Las Vegas, where the vast majority of the people work in service industries where they are dependent on tips. So that's like the easiest of easy political throwaway lines. But like most things, it sounds great until you start implementing it, and then it gets a little more serious, and it gets much more complicated. Actually had one of our producers, Shane Nuttall, join us on the line in the studio here because he gets it. He works in the service industry, and so he understands what that's all about. And he shared an interesting piece of insight, and that is that as this tipping idea has become more and more and more prevalent in our lives, the number of people who actually tip or their feelings about tipping, someone who we've traditionally tipped or who we should tip and tip well, has gone down. So while you can say, hey, I am going to get rid of the tax on your tips, there's a pretty good chance you're going to reduce the number of tips they get and the size of the tips that they're going to get because everybody's exhausted and exasperated by it. When I walk into a fast food restaurant and they're asking me if I want to tip 20% for something I've not received, that makes me a little grumpy about tipping in other places. And so the net effect is going to impact those you say you're trying to help. We didn't even get to the conversation with Shane in terms of the inequity of all of this. And it's not dissimilar from the student loan forgiveness program. That, yes, you can make a certain group of people really happy, but it's not equitable. When you talk about equality in terms of opportunity and leveling the playing field, Shane brought up the point to me that I thought was so great was he works in the service industry, so he gets it, but why should he have an advantage and not have to pay taxes on a good chunk of his income because he's in that industry versus the person who's a city manager or a bus driver or anyone else who isn't dependent on tips? Why should one get a break and the other not? And so we have to step back and start rethinking good policy, not just good politics. The political rhetoric is easy, and that's why both sides of the equation love to jump to it. And while both sides, again, the way I described it earlier, it's like a fifth grade run for class president. Everyone promising longer recesses. Well, I promise longer recesses. Well, I promise longer recesses. And they go back and forth. I'm going to put chocolate milk in the drinking fountain. Well, I'm going to put chocolate milk in the drinking fountain. And they go back and forth. But that's what our politics sound like today. It's a fifth grade class election rather than a run for the presidency of the United States. And I've actually found it pretty interesting when it comes to those kinds of ideas that if you're so worried about it and you're playing it as a zero-sum game, it usually means you're playing the politics of it rather than the policy of it. I used to always tell people, don't worry about people stealing your ideas. Because if it's a really good one, you'll probably have to hit them over the head with it. Because it won't be easy. It will be hard. And it will require real work, not just fancy rhetoric. The other thing you have to think through is this abundance mentality. We live in such a zero-sum game that everybody's so worried about who's stealing what or who owns what. We got to get to abundance. Far too many of us waste a lot of time, a lot of stress, and a lot of mental energy worrying about someone stealing our ideas or someone getting ahead while we're falling behind. It's where populism often begins. It's all about resentment and grievance. And whether it's in the halls of Congress or the boardroom of a business or even simple sibling rivalries, it's all the same. We bought into this playing life as a zero-sum game where if you're winning, that means I'm losing. If you're doing well, that means I'm doing less well. And it also causes us to function from a defensive position of scarcity. And when we do that, whether it's in our work or in our community or in our relationships, it doesn't end well. And you end up isolating yourself, you miss opportunities, you don't network, you don't connect. So living with an abundance mentality, there's enough and to spare. And there's a certain element that if we avoid the, me versus the world, us and them kind of mindset, that's when you actually start working on solutions that work and that produce real results, that produce lasting results. And I've seen it over and over in my career in business, in government, in think tanks, in community. The people who have an abundance mentality, that there is enough and to spare, and so I'm going to share what I know, I'm going to share what I do, because I'm not afraid of that. Because there's enough, and there's enough and to spare. And if I continue to do what I do exceptionally well, there's always opportunity. There's no security in this world in a position or a job or a title or an industry, because all of that comes and goes and changes and ebbs and flows. But I'll tell you what's always in demand. Excellence is always in demand. And it doesn't matter where you work or what you do. If you're delivering with excellence, you're going to have more opportunities moving forward. Doesn't matter the economy. Doesn't matter what happens in the industry. So just focus on the abundance and then pursue that abundance with excellence. And then you can actually share it with everyone else as well. All right, that wraps it up for us on Inside Sources today here on KSL News Radio. I'm Boyd Matheson. Thanks for joining us today. And as always, as you go out into the world, make sure you see something that inspires, say something that uplifts, and do something that makes a difference.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon, 3 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan, 88 degrees. KSL's top story. Salt Lake County residents might be voting on some pretty big bonds this November.